It's hard to describe what inspires what I'm doing just because it just sort of happens. So I don't like sit down with a thought in mind of like what I want to paint. It kind of just ends up reflecting how I'm feeling at the time. So I can really, it's kind of how I express my emotions. Yeah. It's just how I express emotion. So a little bit before the pandemic, I moved out to Minnesota. My dad had moved here to help with the family trust after my grandparents passed away. And I was working 5 jobs in San Jose and like sleeping in my car. So I needed a change. And I came out here and I could just work 1 job and maintain and like buy a home. Whereas I was never gonna do that in San Jose. Like I was never gonna have $2 million to buy a home with. So I came here instead. Growing up in California was a lot. It was congested. It was very crowded. It was like there was so much to do that there was nothing to do, if that makes sense. There was a lot going on all the time, but so many people that it was hard to go do anything. My grandpa was born here in Montevideo, and my grandma was from Milan. So we came here most every summer. A lot of really good memories. Go! Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Are you guys scared of the weather? Come on! What are you doing? Is it too scary? Come on. Those monsters. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on, girls. Come on. Come on. I live in the country, not super far in the country. Obviously, I can get into town pretty quick. I have a handful of critters. I have some goats, some geese, nothing that would really make up like a real farm. It's kind of a funny farm, but they're really like pets, which I know some people don't really condone, but they're fun to have around. They like leaves. I started painting casually right before I moved out here. I was living in like a really expensive rent house with my mother, and I just kind of started painting as something to do. But really it took off 2-ish years ago was when I really started doing what I'm doing now, feeling like more comfortable in my art and kind of not trying to be something that I'm not artistically, because I have a really hard time with things like perspective and realism. So when I kind of got rid of that idea of like trying to paint things and draw things that were realistic, I really fell into my own groove and was able to make things that I feel comfortable making. I don't use a lot of brushes when I paint. I use stuff like spatulas, window squeegees, my hands pretty often, candle tops, the lids of the paint, just pretty much anything but brushes. Sometimes I'll use brushes if I'm feeling a little more detail-oriented, but to really get the lay down, to really get like the first part of painting down, I just kind of go nuts with stuff. Whatever feels right, whatever's at hand, whatever's new maybe sometimes. I want to try something different. I paint mostly with acrylic, but I have been diving a little more into things like ink. I do a lot of watercolor. I've been trying to figure out how to make that a little more abstract recently, because that was where I started trying to do realism, was with watercolor, and it doesn't go super well for me. I'm trying to learn more realism, but I'm also learning how to do it abstract as well. So ink, walnut ink, pencil, pen, ballpoint pen I like working with a lot. It's super fun. Random office supplies are fun to paint with. Shall I go slow? I'm just gonna hit it with a little explosion of color. Ready? Maybe not as explosive as I thought. Painting and creativity in general have helped me just to have a good outlet. I know that sounds kind of contrived, but like, it's a good way for me to just be able to sit down and like wrap up a day. There's stories of like men who come home and they put their worries on a tree outside so they don't have to bring them home. I can do that with paint and canvas often. The showing at Java River is cool because that was kind of the first place that I showed. The folks at Java were kind of the first people to pull me out of my studio and into the world with my art. They pushed me a lot to be a little more public, to show my art, to work. My future, like within the next 5 years, I'm hoping to do a lot more art. I'd like to get something happening locally that's a little more art oriented and starts to get more people involved in the arts within the community. Art has led me to be a lot more open with my own work. I think often I've been someone who could like get the attention of a room easily, but it was very much like a customer service retail kind of mentality, whereas now I'm learning to talk about my own work and be someone who can like advertise myself and show off what I'm doing as opposed to just kind of doing things for others. So it's helped me to be a little bit more of an individual as opposed to someone doing things for others. I come from a big family, but also from a place where there were a lot of people. So like individuality wasn't the first thing. Like sometimes it was just about getting things done, being efficient, making money, like surviving, keeping your head above water. So it was very easy to let individuality fall to the wayside. Whereas now there's a little more time and a little more space for me to kind of grow into what I want to be, as opposed to just thinking about surviving.
Postcards is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Additional support provided by Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies, Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farms, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota. On the web at shalomhillfarm.org. Alexandria, Minnesota, a year-round destination with hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for memorable vacations and events. More information at explorealex.com. A better future starts now. West Central Initiative empowers communities with resources, funding, and support for a thriving region. More at wcif.org.